A boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited, from the gravel roads to the neon dreams, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling, when she hits go live, everybody feels it.
It's Truthful Tuesday. No sugarcoating, no polite lies, just the kind of honesty that makes people nod slowly and rethink their life decisions. Let's talk about it.
A boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited, from the gravel roads to the neon dreams, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling, when she hits go live, everybody feels it.
Hey guys, good afternoon. 3 o'clock spot again. I think I like this. It's just better for my day too. So, good afternoon. Welcome back to Truthful Tuesday. And today we are slowing this show down on purpose because sometimes a story lands that deserves more than a scroll by reaction or a quick headline cycle. I could have saved this for Jukebox Journey, but it was too, too close to home. This is a situation that, well, we're talking about a loved one here because this is history for me. And, you know, when that happens, the responsible thing to do is stop chasing the rhythm of the internet and instead talk carefully about a real person who lived a complicated life in public, a life shaped by faith under pressure, you know, temptation in isolation, physical limits, decades of touring, and the strange weight of being recognized by strangers while still trying to answer to family, conscience, and God when the cameras were off. When Brad Arnold's name started circulating, it did not register to me as distant celebrity news. It felt personal because my husband and I saw them before they were them, you know, before the world caught up, in rooms so small you could learn or lean against the stage and feel the amps vibrating through the floor, right? And memories like that stretch your sense of time completely backwards. They make you stop thinking only in terms of endings or headlines and instead remember how long a life really is. You know, this is hard for me because Brad Arnold was born September 27th, 1978. My birthday, I was born September 28th, 1972. You know, there's a lot of history there. I'm in the same age range, right? How many years of effort and uncertainty and persistence come before the public ever starts paying attention to him, you know? And how many private battles can be fought before anyone ever labels a person a success story? So today, this one's still Truthful Tuesday, but we're putting a little Jukebox Journey in because Brad Arnold deserves that much. And today we're approaching this same way Jukebox Journey always does, not just by ranking songs, not by polishing a career into something neat and inspirational without friction, and not by digging for scandal, and not by pretending the hard chapters never existed either, but by tracing the road honestly. And you know what, with dignity, because truthful does not mean cruel, and it does not mean shallow. It means complete. It means refusing to flatten a life into talking points. I'm saying this because I got on Reddit today thinking, okay, I'll just go ahead and go with my usual Truthful Tuesday. But then I see Brad Arnold's name everywhere. And then I saw this one person that I'm not even going to repeat what they said because let me tell you, it was ridiculous. And it was obviously from a person who didn't understand where this person came from. Okay. And I'm sorry, but this means recognizing that people are formed by pressure just as much by applause. And that the stories we're telling are usually the ones that show what it actually costs someone to stay upright year after year while the industry kept spinning faster and faster around them. This one hurts. We are going to talk about beginnings today and about faith that was present long before success complicated it, and about addiction that was faced rather than hidden, and about recovery that demanded daily discipline rather than slogans. At health battles that forced reality into focus in ways fame can't even soften. And definitely, we're going to dip into the mental and spiritual toll of being the voice attached to songs that became part of strangers' lives. Because that is the truth lane this show sits in. Not mythology, not outrage, not nostalgia alone, but the human road underneath everything else, the truth. Okay? Hi, Jessica. Happy to have you. Thank you for being here. So, what makes this harder than normal Tuesday for me is that I am not just talking about a figure from a distance. I'm talking about someone whose early work intersected with my own timeline. Someone my husband and I saw when the crowd was small and the future was unknown. And when you carry that kind of memory into a moment like this, it changes the posture you take. It makes you careful and it makes you slow down. Hello, Odin. Good to see you again. You're right. Home of the greatest story never told will never see the truth. You're right about that. I truly believe that. You're right about that, sir. Thank you for being here again. Good to see you. So, it makes you want to speak with accuracy instead of volume. And it reminds you that the people we talk about on shows like this once stood exactly where we stand now. The birds, bees, and butterflies are dying from mirrored solar panels and inhumane EMF levels with no regulating end in sight. Unfortunately, Americans blame heat with Joe Rogan. Okay. Odin, my friend, I appreciate your outlook and your opinion, and we love those here. Thank you. Now, there may be somebody out there that doesn't agree with you, okay? I'm just putting that out there. You are welcome to stay. You are welcome to share your opinion, my friend. Thank you. So ordinary people, in ordinary rooms trying to do something meaningful with whatever gifts they have been given, long before anybody was framing their lives in terms of legacy. Truthful Tuesday is usually where we open letters and weigh decisions and analyze behavior. But sometimes truth does not come from a Reddit post or a letter at all. Sometimes it comes from stepping back and looking at an entire life arc and admitting that staying in motion for decades in public is not simple. It's not. I've only been doing this for a year, and I have to take a breath before and after I put on a show every time. I have 5 people in my chat room right now, and I appreciate all 5 of you. Of course I want more, but that's not what I'm here for. I like the interaction. I like the fact that somewhere down the line, somebody may see this and think, hey, she had a good idea there. Or maybe even disagree with me. That's okay too. I don't mind that at all. I don't mind opinions. I love opinions. I'm rather opinionated myself. I try to keep that on, the lockdown, but it's how we are. And unfortunately, these artists, they go through excruciating pain from their fans alone. And we need to recognize that, I think. Surviving fame is not automatic. That faith gets tested when schedules erase routine. That temptation, it gets louder in isolation, okay? Physical bodies do not cooperate forever, no matter how strong the spirit might be. He was 47 years old. I'm 54. I have lived half the life, maybe a third of the life that he's lived. And personally, I've had my problems. We all do. I've had bouts with addictions, and, you know, I've been married a very long time too. And that history, it creates who we are today. So here, we may talk about the addictions, but we don't stand on them as a personality trait because that's just not fair. It's strong spirit. It is. And people who last are often the ones who kept choosing accountability and honesty long after the applause stopped being thrilling. That is the lane that we're driving in today. And it is deliberate because flattening a life into either praise or criticism alone does not tell the truth. And what we are after this afternoon is the real shape of a road that included devotion and doubt, conviction and relapse, perseverance and fear, endurance and humility, not as contradictions, but as parts of the same human story. There is also something worth saying about why stories like this land differently as we get older. Because when you have lived long enough to collect memories from different seasons of your own life, from early adulthood to marriage to work to exhaustion to joy and grief and everything in between, you start realizing that the people whose music followed you through those seasons are not frozen in time the way songs sometimes feel. You can't tell me when you turn on the radio and you get the classic station and you hear something you haven't heard since your childhood that you don't just well up with this wonderful feeling of that moment that you heard that song the first time. That's what this feels like for me with Three Doors Down, because I was in a dive bar before they were them. Okay. And go ahead and criticize me for a dive bar. I don't care. I went there to see them because I heard they were good. And you know what? I like to think that I might even be part of that crew that helped them be who they were, right? They kept aging while I was aging. They kept fighting battles while I was fighting mine too. And when one of those timelines suddenly stop, it forces you to confront how fragile the whole thing really is, how quickly decades pass, and you know what? How many moments we never realized would become bookmarks until years later when we look back and recognize them for what they really were. And y'all have seen all my stuff on Aussie Connection there too. I mean, if you've seen my husband today, you would know that's Aussie right there. No, he looks like him. He wears the same glasses, and not by intention, but because that's how he feels. That's how he likes. That's his vibe, right? Nothing wrong with that. So when I'm talking about Brad Arnold, Southern boy, and here I am from Texas, seen him in Louisiana, all Southern. There's a connection there that's not just from seeing them before they were who they were. Okay? And this isn't a gossip-driven show today, and it's not a rush job, and it's not about chasing clicks. It's about sitting with a real human life long enough to do it justice. Because what I've seen and what I've read today alone, and this happened Saturday, just today alone, reading it, I finally decided this is not what I want this to be about. And you know what? I may only get 5 people in my chat room all day long, but somebody's going to see it. Today's my birthday. My name is Luke. I'm 15. Well, Outdoor Live, Luke, thank you for being here, and happy birthday, my friend. Happy birthday. 15. That's a great age. That's a great age. Okay, so about talking honestly about faith in an industry that does not always reward it, naming addiction without turning it into spectacle. about acknowledging recovery as work rather than miracle language alone, about confronting illness without pretending bravery erases fear. And you know what? Respecting the complexity of someone who kept standing in front of crowds while carrying pressures most of us will never experience at that scale. That is what truthful means here, okay? And that is the tone for the entire afternoon. We are not rushing through this. We are not flattening it. We're not reducing a decades long life to a handful of headlines. We are going to walk through it carefully from the beginning and forward and let the full picture breathe, because some stories deserve more than speed. Some names deserve more than a footnote. And some Tuesdays deserve to be handled with weight instead of noise. And that is what we are doing right now. Okay? All right, give me 1 second here because I do have something that I want to pull up. Yes, and go there. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. Next segment. Gotcha. Sorry, I am not as prepared today as I normally am, but that's with good reason because, first, I'm trying to make my money. Second, I'm trying to make my time. And third, I'm trying to make my YouTube. So that's where we're at today. You'll have to forgive me because I do have my tear towels because this one's gotten me today. Plain and simple. I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. Now, I do have a video that just finally downloaded, and I'm going to pull it up because this is a short that I made today, and it's going to loop, and you know what? Get over it. No offense, just it's a good one, and I'd like for it to be up here. So we're going to do it this way. There we go. And I will have to keep replaying it. Get over it. Anyway, when people encounter an artist after, success already wrapped itself around their name, it's easy to assume that momentum was inevitable, that the road unfolded cleanly from talent to spotlight. But that version of life almost never holds. Certainly not up under honest examination, because long before recognition arrives, there are years of formation that are invisible to most of the world. Years shaped by family, systems, faith communities, regional culture, economic realities, and the small private decisions that quietly determine how someone will respond later when pressure multiplies. Brad Arnold's early life fits that pattern in ways that are important to slow down and sit with, because the person the public eventually saw was built long before a national audience existed. Growing up in Mississippi meant growing up inside a Southern ecosystem where church life and community networks and moral language were woven into everyday routines rather than reserved for special occasions in environments like that. Environments like that do not teach people what to believe, okay? They teach people, or not just teach them, they teach people how to talk about struggle, right? How to frame failure, how to ask for help, how to think about responsibility, and how to understand the idea of calling long before a career ever gives that word public meaning. And those frameworks, they become especially significant when someone eventually finds themselves living in a profession that dismantles normal routines and it relocates them constantly. I mean, tours are real, surrounds them with temptation, and exposes them to judgment from strangers at scale, because whatever inner scaffolding was built early is what gets stress tested later when circumstances change faster than character, right? He gravitated towards music early, not as a packaged ambition, but as instinct. The kind that pulls people towards sound before they have language for it and for why it matters. so much to them. Okay. And people who later spoke about those years, they tended to emphasize not flash, but sincerity, not entitlement, but persistence, and someone who sang because something in him needed to come out rather than because the outcome was guaranteed. And that distinction, it matters because the early phase of any musical life is, I mean, it's ruthless about revealing motive. Since there are no crowds large enough to justify the labor and no money consistent enough to make it feel secure, only repetition and disappointment and the stubborn decision to keep practicing anyway. Those first years were filled with the unromantic mechanics of trying to make something work. Borrowed instruments, unreliable sound systems, long drives in cramped vehicles, playing wherever anyone would offer a stage, like little dive bars in Lafayette, Louisiana. Finishing sets for thin crowds, loading equipment back into trucks at the end of the night, and doing it again the next day. I've got a friend, actually, it's my husband and my friend that was in a band when we first got together, and I watched him do it, and it's hell. It's got to be hell. It's psychological because it teaches people how to respond when effort is not immediately rewarded, whether they collapse inward or become more disciplined, whether the world or they blame the world or examine themselves, right? Whether they cling to ego or cultivate patience. Brad later spoke about how faith operated for him even in that at that stage as something practical rather than decorative, something that helped him orient himself when outcomes were uncertain, something that reminded him that his value was not tied solely to applause, and that early anchoring becomes critical when once applause starts arriving in quantities that can distort self-perception. If nothing steadier is underneath it. He also did not present his youth as untouched by difficulty. And that is part of what keeps this story grounded rather than mythic. Because, listen, the temptation in hindsight is always to treat hardship as something that only shows up after fame, when in reality, people carry vulnerabilities with them into every chapter of their lives. And he acknowledged that pressures, internal battles, and flawed coping patterns existed long before the spotlight magnified them. He was not exempt from the same struggles that appear in far quieter professions. And that admission later on, it really matters precisely because it dismantles the illusion that talent insulates people from human weakness. I think that's a big thing, a really big thing. Hey, Ikwaba, is that what your name is? I hope I said that right. If I did not, please forgive me. Very happy to have you. Thank you for being here. So, one of the most damaging myths, okay, that's one of them attached to the celebrity culture. It's a rough culture, I would think. I haven't been in it all that much. Oh, I said it perfectly. Oh, thank goodness. Yay. Good for me. Very happy to have you. Thank you for being here. So, let me load up this next one here. Pardon me. So, bands themselves, are collective organisms rather than solo projects, forged through friendships and disagreements, shared financial risk, and long conversations about whether the sacrifices being made now will ever amount to anything later. And those dynamics shape people just as much as the music does. Because living in those quarters with collaborators teaches compromise, conflict resolution, accountability, and endurance in ways that solo effort rarely does. And Brad's early years were shaped inside those relational crucibles, through rehearsals that stretched late into the night, through arguments over arrangements and lyrics, through shared excitement when something finally clicked, and also through the slow construction of trust that only forms when people commit to uncertain futures together. That's a big ask, right? What stands out when those years are traced carefully is how ordinary they were and how essential that ordinariness later became. Because fame does not land on people who have been shielded from consequence, it lands on people who already possess habits of thought and belief that will either stabilize them or fracture them once the pressure accelerates. And those Mississippi roots, the church communities, the family influences, the ethic of perseverance, and definitely the language of accountability, apprenticeship of playing for small rooms, and all became part of the infrastructure that would eventually support him when the pace of his life changed dramatically. And it did. We know it did. When he reflected on those years later, and not a tendency to glamorize obscurity so much as to recognize that the slow build mattered, okay? That the early discipline mattered, and lack of shortcuts, it really mattered. Those conditions did not delay success so much as prepare him for surviving it. Faith in those early years was not framed as immunity from difficulty, but as orientation inside of it, a way of interpreting fear and ambition or disappointment and hope without pretending those emotions were absent. And that is a crucial distinction, because belief systems that only function when life is going well collapse under sustained stress, whereas belief systems that are practiced quietly in uncertain seasons become unusable when circumstances grow extreme. And Brad, he spoke later about learning to rely on prayer, not as performance, but as habit, something integrated into daily life rather than reserved for emergencies. And that continuity. Why did I say it that way? Continuity, pardon me. I don't word good today. That continuity between early formation and later testimony is what makes, pardon me, 1 second. I know I put that on quiet. Okay, another element that deserves attention is the way that early adulthood forces people to confront identity before outcomes have stabilized. Okay. People don't respect artists like they should. I've been trying to record for months, but my neighbors seem like they have to crank up motorcycles and press the gas. I'm so tired to the max every day. I get that. I hear you. And that's awful. They should appreciate good music. And you know what? All music is good. I'm an eclectic kind of person, so I bet you I'd like it. I have to go check your channel out. Are you big? You doing good over there? You getting your channel worked out? Because let me tell you, you come to the right place. I love some music now. All kinds. I guarantee you I'll like it. All right, so so questions about work. That's when these start to come up, right? Direction, purpose. They become unavoidable, especially in a field as unstable as music. And those years require people to decide whether they're chasing validation or calling, whether they are willing to let their lives be shaped by discipline rather than fantasy, and whether they will stay rooted in convictions even when the surrounding culture does not reward restraint. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you being here and sharing your story. I really do. And you go for it, and you don't worry about what anybody else says. Phooey on them neighbors, because you got this and this is your dream, not theirs. Okay? Play louder, play harder, love your dream, and take off with it. Okay? Okay, I better get back to my story, but that is especially meant for you, my new friend. Now that I understand too. I feel that on YouTube all the time. I'm still trying to find my space here. But you know what? There are some fish that can survive outside of the water too. Just get yourself out there and don't you worry about what other people say, because as long as you can feel it, then it's yours. Okay? If they can't feel it, it ain't theirs. And that's okay. Don't worry about them, especially if they're loud motorcycles. Okay. So, internal negotiations, they rarely show up in press releases, but determine far more than any chart position later on. And so when we talk about Brad Arnold's beginning story, we're not dealing in origin myths or convenient narratives. We are talking about formation in slow motion, about faith and pressure coexisting before the public ever noticed. Yay, happy faces. See, look, we love happy faces here. Now, about vulnerability developing alongside talent, forming long before contracts entered the picture, and about a young man learning how to stand upright while carrying gifts that had not yet attracted large audiences but already demanded responsibility. I'd say this might actually be a good story for you to listen to, my new friend, because this is exactly what I'm trying to say here. Okay? This is exactly what I'm trying to say. Learning how to stand upright while carrying gifts that had not yet attracted large audiences but already demanded responsibility. That, my friend, I think is perfect for you, because I think that no matter where you are in your life, as long as you are still trying to live your dream, it's a big responsibility, but you're getting there. You're on your way. You are on your way. I haven't even heard your music, my new friend, but you are on your way. I can tell. I can tell. Don't feel like a fish in water. Don't feel like a fish out of water. Feel like you, because you is who you need to be true to. Nobody else, not your neighbors, not their motorcycles for sure. I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry, because you showed up at the right time. This is perfect. So, but lives are, built in rehearsal spaces. See? And long drives and private prayers long before they are displayed under stage lights. Okay, see, you got me. Do it. I'm telling you, you got this. You already got this. You're out there right now. And those quiet chapters, okay, they deserve just as much attention as the louder ones that follow. Not because they're dramatic, but because they are decisive. See? Make the decision. Just do it. I know I'm sounding like a Nike commercial, and please forgive me, Nike. I will tag you later on this one. But seriously, just do it. Just do it. I am 54 years old. Look, I'm going to tell you my story just a little bit here, because you're my new friend, and you'll understand why here in a minute. I have 12 years of voice lessons behind me. Okay? 54 years old, never done anything with my voice. I can sing. I can sing. I'm too nervous to do it. But you know what? I've been on here, and you can go and look, and there is a video of me singing on here. And it's because I got that in my head. Just do it. I'm running out of time, and I am worth a dream. One, if it's just one, One of these days, I may get to sing up on stage. Maybe not. But you know what? I don't care if my neighbors don't like it. I don't care if it's loud out there, because guess what? Sing louder. Sing louder. Your voice deserves to be heard. And here, it's always, always welcome. Always. Now, you have a little story about me. Okay, so this first part of this story, of Brad Arnold's story, forgive me, it's about, I feel that way all the time, but it's just a phase. You know, it may be a phase, but it's a phase that you want to walk through, or you wouldn't be talking about it, right? Right? You know I'm right there. If it's just a phase, you wouldn't be here knowing that this has got some music to it. Or I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but there was a movie with Whoopi Goldberg called Sister Act. And she said, and it was two, and she said, if you wake up and think of music, if you sit down and you have food and you're, you know, it to this extent, I'm not doing verbatim here, I'm bad with that. But my point is, if you wake up, you drink, you sleep, you eat, music, you were born to do that. And if something you feel like is just a phase, but yet it's still happening and you're still wanting it, it's not a phase, it's a dream. And all you have to do is take one step in a different direction, and you'll find that dream. You'll find the momentum to get there. And if this is really what you want, you'll make it. Dead serious here. Because, you know, it's been a long time since I've sang on stage, but I've done it. And it's hard. It's really hard getting on here and talking to you guys, because I'm putting myself out there. But you know what? I got to do it sooner or later, because like I said, I don't have forever, and it's just time. So take this as my little advice for you. It's time. It's time to see if it's really a phase or not. I hope that helps. All right, you guys, listen, it is, oh, goodness. I'm going to go ahead and take my little break. And I'm sorry if you're new here, I take a little break. I have a little song that I made myself. Yes, I made myself. It's a great song. I wrote it. Yes, it's AI music. I will put that out there. But this is my song, and I shall be back. Oh, you should find some people to audition for a group. Yes, it helps. Yes, absolutely. You know what? I have auditioned for groups before. I can't seem to find, I guess, my genre because I'm so eclectic. But, you know, I'm Southern and I'm pretty good with country. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick little 4-minute break and let y'all hear this song. I shall return.
She came from the quiet storms, built a fire from the ground, turned a whisper to a warning. Now her voice shakes the town. Every setback was a lesson, every doubt became a key, unlocking something bigger. That's the rise of Boss B. When the lights go low, her vision hits high. She built a whole damn network off a promise and a try. Every sunrise, every moment, she's stacking legacy. This ain't just a channel, this is BBTV. A Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel road to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. She's the queen of the comeback, the storm in the stream, crafting stories out of heartbreak. of the BBTV dynasty. Boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up. Yeah, the whole world's invited from the gravel roads to the neon dream. She built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling when she hits go live. Everybody feels it. She's got fire in the head, it's got truth in the frame, got a heart that won't retire and a gift you can't name. Every loop, every letter, every dream she sets free, it's a love note to the world sign. Boss B. And the world keeps watching as the numbers climb, but she's counting all the moments, not the dollar signs. From the late night grind to the daylight scene, she's building something bigger than the algorithm's dream. Boss be rising, BBTV shining, her story's rewriting, a legacy in real time. Boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up. Yeah, the whole world's invited from the gravel roads to the neon dream. She built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling when she hits go live. Everybody feels it. BBTV, where the stories breathe. BBTV, where the dreamers believe. Boss be rising, watch her take her place. This is BBTV, this is her grace.
Join Boss B for Ask a Bee Monday through Friday, 12 noon Central Standard Time and Jukebox Journey every Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right, we are back. Oh, my light changed on me. Okay. Thank you. Wow, you're an awesome writer. Good job. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yes, I wish I could take claim for the voice and the music. It's not me, but I'll get there. All right, let's get this second half going. We're going to get back up here and put our, there it is. This thing doesn't like me today, I don't think. All righty. Also, I should probably say bless you to my dog first. Sorry. And also, yes, you're right. I should, and I will. I've already discussed it with some friends. I don't really have, I got to make another version of it so that I have it without the voice. But yes, you're right. I do. I want to. I will. I catch myself back here singing it all the time anyway. I might as well. So, also, I wanted to say that I am changing my time. I know that the promo said at noon. That was the old time. I'm going to stick with 3 o'clock because it seems to be a much better time and you all seem to be here with me. So we're going to stick with that for now and see how that works. But I like 3 o'clock. It works for my day so much better right now. All right. So back into Brad Arnold. So his career expanded from small venues into national attention The pace of his life accelerated in ways that most people never experience. And what makes his story worth slowing down for a Truthful Tuesday to me is not simply that success arrived, but how complicated survival inside that success turned out to be. You know, you got to remember that success doesn't just show up. You got to work to get there. And then once it gets there, it is overwhelming, to say the least. Touring schedules, they erase routine. Visibility multiplies scrutiny, and isolation grows even in the middle of applause. And the weight of carrying songs that became part of strangers' lives is healthier than it looks from the outside. And you know what? He did not pretend otherwise. When he spoke later about those years, just describing disorientation of constant travel, the psychological strain of hotel rooms that blur together, the emotional whiplash between thousands of cheering fans and silent hallways afterwards, and the way exhaustion lowers defenses, in subtle increments until temptation and despair no longer feel theoretical but immediate and personal. So he chose over time to talk openly about addiction and recovery rather than protecting an image. And that decision carried professional risks in an industry that often rewards silence more than honesty. Because admitting weakness, it disrupts the mythology of invincibility that surrounds performers. Yet he framed those seasons not as dramatic turning points designed for health or headlines, but as long, grinding processes filled with setbacks, accountability, and prayer, and repeated recommitment. The kind of work that does not photograph well, but determines whether someone remains standing years later. Yes, the singer of Three Doors Down. He passed away on Saturday. He was younger than me, so it's hard on me. And also because I seen him in a bar way before they were big. So yeah, he's very familiar. But in doing so, he offered language for people watching from the outside who were navigating similar private battles, not by positioning himself as a hero who conquered effortlessly, but as someone who needed help, needed structure, needed faith to keep going. And he needed community to hold him steady when his own resolve wavered. It is sad. It really is sad, isn't it? That's why I decided to stop. Normally I do AITA on here, which is Reddit for Am I the A-hole? And it's just stories that I read and react to. But I also on Sunday or Saturdays, three Saturdays out of the month, I do Jukebox Journey, and I talk about different musicians, mostly rock because that's my favorite, but different musicians, especially about the ones that have passed away, like Ozzy. He was very important to me, and well, Brad Arnold is very important to me too. So I decided instead today we would just talk about, we keep the theme as Truthful Tuesday and talk about Brad Arnold, since unfortunately he has passed. He had kidney cancer. He was only 47 years old. His birthday was September 27th, 1978. And my birthday was September 28th, 1972. So there's just, you find out things about artists that you love, and it compounds, everything that you feel about that artist and what they stand for. And for me, it's hard because not only did I know them before they were big, but knowing that he was sick and praying for his family, Pardon me. Okay. So faith for him in those years was not ornamental and not reserved for interviews. It was something he described as practical and portable and necessary. And that's something else I feel about him, his faith. And I'm not just saying it's a Southern thing, but growing up Southern myself, religious is pretty prominent in the South. And I'm not saying it's not in the North. I'm just saying it's something that I remember as well. You're taught faith first. And it doesn't matter what denomination of church, you're taught faith first. And whatever kind of faith that might be, you carry it with you. It's first, always. But, it was something he carried into the buses with him, backstage corridors, late night conversations. And when doubt crept in and fear grew louder than the applause, what made those accounts compelling was the absence of bravado in them. The way he spoke about surrender rather than self-sufficiency, about leaning into belief when circumstances were destabilizing rather than waiting until stability returned. You're from Florida. Oh, my oldest son lives in Florida, up in the northern part. I lived there for about 3 months myself. It's hot. Has it rained yet today for 5 minutes? That weather is different there. But Texas weather sucks too. But, that posture, it stands out precisely because celebrity culture so often frame confidence as independence instead of dependence, right? Whereas his language consistently pointed towards reliance on God and mentors and family and on structures of accountability that made endurance possible when willpower alone proved insufficient. So, as the band's music accumulated meaning for listeners across generations, especially mine, he became increasingly aware of the responsibility attached to that visibility. Because, people don't just stream songs. They attach them to grief and marriage and diagnosis and recovery and long drives home when their thoughts get too loud. And he spoke about fan encounters with seriousness rather than entitlement. About moments when strangers told him that a lyric had carried them through something frightening or irreversible, and how those interactions reframed his understanding of what he was doing on stage, turning performances into something closer to service. And that reframing mattered when the job became exhausting, because when applause stopped being thrilling and started feeling heavy, the knowledge that the music mattered to someone outside the building provided motivation to keep showing up, even when physical energy and emotional reserves were thin. And, I'll be honest with you. That's why I keep showing up here every single day. Even if it's just 5 people that come to see me every single day, those 5 people, they don't mind hearing what I have to say. And that's important. That's really important when you want to put yourself out there. So, later in life, when health challenges entered the picture with him, the same tension between public work and private fear sharpened rather than softened, because illness forces conversations that touring culture is not built to accommodate. Conversations about limits and mortality, pain, uncertainty, and whether the future will look anything like the past. And he addressed those realities with a degree of candor that unsettled easy narratives. And, speaking about anxiety alongside hope, vulnerability alongside faith, and acknowledging that belief does not eliminate terror, but gives people language for walking through it instead of pretending it's not there. The honesty. That honesty widened the circle of people who recognize themselves in his story. No, but it's cold to me, but not to, or hot to people up north. Well, I am in Central Texas, and I've got the air conditioner running today, so I get it. Hello, Brandon of Palm Beach. Good to see you, my friend. Haven't seen you in a minute. Hope everything's good in your neck of the woods. I think we have another Florida native over here. So suddenly, Brad was not just the voice behind familiar songs, but another human being trying to interpret what was happening to his own body and his life while refusing to retreat into silence. Well, there you go. And now you have somebody to talk to about that wonderful weather in Florida. That's awesome. You know, it was probably about 45 degrees this morning for me too. It has been a while. I'm glad you got here. Good to see you. Really good to see you. So, Brad continued to speak out about loving Jesus, not as a slogan or a shield, but as a relationship that structured how he made sense of suffering and uncertainty, returning repeatedly to the idea that endurance did not come from denial but trust. Practice daily. That recovery was not a single decision but a discipline. That faith was not proven by the absence of struggle, but by persistence inside it. And that framing kept his story from collapsing into either um, triumph or despair. Instead, holding space for complexity and fear, courage and doubt, gratitude, relapse, recommitment, physical weakness, spiritual resolve, and all existing within the same long arc rather than canceling each other out. Another thread that remained consistent through later chapters was his insistence on acknowledging the people around him, bandmates who endured the same relentless schedules, family members who carried the invisible burdens of life on the road. I'm sure his wife had hell, right? Fans whose loyalty extended across decades and faith communities that prayed for him when his strength ran thin. And that outward facing recognition is not accidental. It signals an understanding that no one sustains a long career alone. Who am I talking about? Oh, yes, I am talking about Brad Arnold, the lead singer to Three Doors Down. He passed away on Saturday at the age of 47 from kidney cancer, fork cancer, guys. Pardon me. I know I'm using my F word. That's the only F bomb you get here. Fork cancer, guys. Okay. 47 years old. And as I was telling my new friend, he was born September 27th, 1978. And I was born September 28th, 1972. And before Three Doors Down was big, my husband and I saw them in a little dive bar in Louisiana. I mean, way before they were big. And so I've got history here and knowledge and, sat and talked to his, I guess, then girlfriend. I'm not sure she was his wife then, but the girl that he was with at the time, she was standing there at the bar, and I talked to her for a few minutes, and we told them how much we loved their music. And, it was kind of a meet and greet situation that was quick and finished, but, it was pretty amazing. And you know how I do over here, all my music. So I had to go hard on this one because that's history for me. It's rough, but I'm making it through this one without the tears that I cried this morning, because yes, I did. It was Saturday and I knew about it, but I was writing this morning and it was just rough trying to write it. Yes, he was younger than me. That's a shame. Kidney cancer. Yeah. It was an amazing little adventure. It was my husband and I and my sister-in-law and her husband, and it was kind of surreal now, I guess, because I shook the man's hand before he was ever big. The only Only little show that I could see with a famous person was 20 years ago at the fair at the free concert was Marshall Tucker Band, which is one of my favorite. Oh, mine too. See, I'm eclectic. I like my rock and roll, but let me tell you, Marshall Tucker is awesome. Okay? I love Marshall Tucker. Heck yeah. That's that's a win-win. Yeah, 5 years older than you, huh? Okay. See? Yep. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than that, so yeah. Oh, hi, Patty friend. I know you're here, honey. I love you so much for being here. Thank you. You're always here with me, even when you're working. Y'all, this is Patty, my bestest bud here on YouTube. She is amazing. She doesn't have a channel to speak of, or I would be promoting the heck out of her right now. But y'all, she is amazing anyway. Let me tell you that. She's my girl. All right, I better finish this up. I only have a little bit left, but this, I didn't want to rush through this because it's really, really close to my heart. So, you know, this is our new friend, Patty. So, rather than, solitary, and that humility becomes more necessary rather than less visibility grows. Because isolation is one of the most dangerous byproducts of fame, and gratitude directed outward functions as guardrail against believing one's own mythology, right? What makes his story fit the truthful lane is precisely this: refusal to flatten a complicated life into a simple arc. You hear this one? Don't flatten your life. Don't flatten it. Don't worry. Yikwaba. I'm not going to say it right the second time. My new friend, let me tell you something. Forget about your neighbors. Keep going with your music. Y'all tell him. Tell him. Forget about your neighbors. Go with your music. So, because truth does not require turning struggle into spectacle, and it doesn't require erasing pain either, it requires acknowledging the cost of longevity in public, the mental toll of constant recognition. You wouldn't think that would be a mental toll of being recognized constantly, but it is. The spiritual strain of temptation and exhaustion, okay? The physical vulnerability that arrives regardless of status, and the disciplined work of recovery that rarely ends with a neat bow. And when he spoke about real these realities, okay, he did so without theatrical bitterness, choosing instead to frame them as a road he was still walking. I think that's huge. I think if you cannot walk this road without first recognizing the steps you've already taken and how they built you or broke you down, then there's no way to go forward. You have to, every bit of it has to be a part, because it's all what's made you who you are. And he was still learning pressures, he was still negotiating, and faith that he was still practicing rather than claiming to have mastered. He never claimed to be perfect. Thank goodness, because you know what? Perfect is boring. So when we sit with later chapters of Brad Arnold's life in this last segment, we are not inventorying trophies or chart positions or tour grosses. We are tracing endurance, the kind that keeps people showing up long after novelty fades, the kind that survives scrutiny and temptation and illness and the relentless motion of an industry that rarely slows down for anyone. We are acknowledging that the legacy of a life it's just not measured only by records sold, but the honesty with which someone confronted their own limits, the courage it took to speak openly about addiction and recovery, and the persistence required to keep faith alive under pressure, and the way those choices echoed outward. into the lives of people who never met him but borrowed strength from his words and his music and when they needed it most. And, that's what remains when the noise recedes. Not the headlines, not the cycles of outrage or praise, but the shape of a human being who kept choosing to stand up again in full view of the world and tell the truth about how hard that actually was. I mean, can you imagine trying to keep it together and then finding out how sick you really are and still trying to meet those demands? It's not possible. Not in that frame of mind and well, not in that health, right? Yes, they are. That's right. It's hard not to make a mistake. Artists are judged very hard. They very much are. Yes, absolutely. And it may not be music, but on YouTube, we're judged too, you know? So, regardless of what you're doing out there, you're going to be judged. And that's part of what I'm trying to say to you too, my new friend, because your neighbors are judging and it's going to happen. And you know what? Who cares? Don't you? Because you know what you want, you know what you need, and you know what it's going to take to get you there. And you got this. I'm going to give you that one more time. You got this. Enjoy your music. There's somebody out there that will enjoy it too, I promise you. All right, so before we close out today, I just want to say thank you for sitting with this story the way it deserves to be sat with, and for all the conversation today. For my new friend, I'm so happy that you're here, and I hope to see you again. For Odin, who was in here earlier, that shows up every now and then, I'm still thankful that you showed up. And I hope I didn't miss anybody. Brandon, of course, wouldn't miss you, my friend. So happy to see you. Thank you for coming in. Patty, you know I love you, dog. So, Truthful Tuesday isn't, always about hot takes or internet drama. Sometimes it's about slowing down long enough to honor a real human life and the complicated road behind the music. And today, I got to talk about faith under pressure, recovery that takes work, physical limits that force hard conversations, and what it actually costs to survive decades in public while still trying to live with conviction when the cameras are up. And if any part of this hit close to home for you, whether you came for the music or stayed for the honesty, I hope you take something steady with you when you leave, because these conversations matter and the stories behind the songs matter and the people behind the headlines matter too. And if you want more deep dives like this, make sure you're subscribed. Check out Jukebox Journey. I've got a whole playlist of shorts for you. And, we trace the human connections behind music history, and we'll be back tomorrow with more real stories and real conversations. Same time at 3. We're going back to 3. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Good to see you, Brandon. I'm so happy you showed up. It's been a minute. So join me again tomorrow, please, for Ask a Bee. We're going to be on at 3 p.m. every day now. I think we're going to change because I just like it. It's working for me. I'm going to give you a few promos to let us out of here. Thank you. Look, I have to put this one up here because this makes me feel good. This is what I'm talking about right here. Look at this. Look at this. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. I love you all. And thank you to my new friend for being here. Yes. Well, you know what? Brandon, don't work too hard, my friend. Okay. Here's a couple of promos for you. And I'm out of here. I will see you tomorrow. Hi, guys. I just wanted to come in real quick and say I'm so sorry I couldn't be here tonight, but I just don't feel it, and you can tell it in my voice now. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to play those promos here in just 1 second. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you so much for sitting with me in this time. Hello, Eddie. Good to see you. I wanted to say hello to Patty Friend, of course, and anybody else that showed up tonight. Thank you so much. Please forgive my illness. It's Texas bipolar weather. I'm not going to blame anything else, but I really appreciate you, and I wanted you to know that. Thank you again. I will see you Monday at 3 p.m. Don't forget me. It's going to be Ask a Bee. Okay? I love you guys. I'm going to go ahead and play those promos now. Thank you so much for being so good to me and coming back every time. Bye-bye.
I want to take a minute to shout out TuberChat. If you're a creator who's tired of surface-level advice, says, and actually wants to understand how YouTube works, that's the space. It's real conversations with real creators who are in the trenches, building channels, testing ideas. No posturing, no gatekeeping, no fake guru energy, just people sharing what's working, what isn't, and why.
If you're serious about growing, learning, and not doing this alone, check out TuberChat. The link is in the description. If you're enjoying this show, subscribing is the easiest way to support what's being built here on BBTV. You'll see the join button right next to subscribe. No pressure, no expectations, just an option for people who want to support the channel in a real way. We're live every day at 3 p.m. Central now. And don't worry, we didn't change the heat, just the clock. And if you've got a story you want to share, send it in. Anonymous is always fine.
Boss be rising.